Hello everyone, Lawrence here from Unicorn Reviews. Today we're looking at the Inwin 303. This is a full steel tower with a tempered glass side panel, all at a very low price. Let's start with packaging. This case ships horizontally with styrofoam corner pieces on each end, and then there's a very thick cloth back over the case, so if something does pierce the box, it won't scratch your case. At 50 centimeters, the case is rather tall. It's 21 centimeters wide and 48 centimeters long. And because there is 1.2 millimeter SECC steel, this case weighs in at a whopping 11 kilograms. The 50% thicker panels really help limit vibrations and keep the noise down. In terms of I/O, there are 4 USB ports. You get 2 USB 3.0 ports, audio in, audio out, a nice big clicky power button, I really like that, and then a small reset button, which I also really like. There's a hard drive activity LED, and the Inwin logo, like all the I/O, is illuminated in a very bright blue. However, I still don't get why the Inwin logo is upside down. One of my favorite things about the Inwin 303 must be the airflow, and sure, the 120mm included fan is pretty rubbish and it makes an annoying ticking noise. You can install 3 120s in the bottom, 3 120s in the top, and with the same fans at the same fan speeds as with my Fantex P400S, this case runs 7 degrees cooler on the CPU temperature, all thanks to that vertical airflow that we're getting. The bottom has a sideways removable dust filter to make sure everything stays clean on the inside. The feet lift the case a good 1.5 centimeters, which is plenty because you shouldn't put a case this good looking on the floor or on a carpet anyway. What I also really like is the side exhaust. Not only does this side exhaust blow the hot air away from the user if you have it on the right side of you, of course, it also makes sure the sound goes in the other direction. My only negative with the cooling is that Inwin decided not to leave you slots or holes for 140mm fans, so I just decided to drill some holes myself, and because the panels are very thick, it's hard to get through, but you also don't bend the panel when you're just drilling through it. The internal layout with the vertically mounted top positioned power supply has a big impact on the hardware you can fit. While you can put dual hard drives on the back of the motherboard tray and on the front side you can even put 3 if you get an extra little plate. I feel like Inwin should have done more with the extra room in the top in front of the power supply. Like, I get this for airflow purposes, but having a hard drive cage in front of the PSU would have been really nice. The 303 really is a case that needs some planning ahead when you're building in it. For example, the motherboard has to go in before you put in the bottom radiators or fans. If you don't do this, then it's simply impossible to access the bottom connectors on your motherboard. And if you're running USB 3.0 with a motherboard connector on the bottom, you're out of luck, it won't fit with fans in the bottom as well. I would, however, definitely recommend to put fans in the bottom because the motherboard is so low, there aren't any cutouts underneath it to route all those front I/O cables through. So putting some fans in there really helps clean up the cable mess because you're simply hiding the cables. The biggest issue, in my opinion, with this case is the cable management. While there is an awful lot of room behind the motherboard tray, so you can just forget about the cables from your spaghetti build, the hole to route the power supply cables through barely fits a 24-pin connector. There are no rubber grommets or correctly positioned cutouts for your GPU power. SSDs face each other, so one of them will be upside down. And while the 805 came with really handy sticky cable hoops, this case doesn't. So I strongly advise anyone using this case to go and buy some 3M adhesive cable hoops. Despite that little annoyance, I felt really inspired by this case. Basically, cooling is so easy with this 303. You can put massive radiators in the bottom, any size really, as long as you're not using those slots on your motherboard. I'd actually suggest going with an M-ATX board and a massive radiator, but you also have 70mm of top clearance for radiators and fans, which is huge. However, if like me, you're an air cooling guy, you can still fit the Noctua NHD14, which is 160mm tall. However, that is the absolute maximum. It is actually slightly touching the glass panel. Generally speaking, building in the Inwin 303 is an absolute pleasure. You can check my build video in the top right corner by clicking that card. You simply have to plan ahead a little bit with the cable management, and it's actually really awesome to work with a case this strong and this well built. I don't like, however, the I/O plate installed. Basically, the plate is only held in place at the bottom and on the top, leaving the sides a bit wobbly. It's really something Inwin should fix because it was also there on the 805 and I don't really like it. Also, the graphics card and motherboard I/O is recessed, so it's kind of hard to plug in cables like when you're bending over and leaning over your case to plug in stuff to the back. So in conclusion, this is a great case. It's very easy to do a simple build-in, but it also gives you the option to expand later or to just go with insane water cooling custom builds. You can, for example, put your reservoir in the front, put the pump on the other side of that radiator bracket. I really love how custom you can go with a case like this. The temperatures are also incredibly low, as is the noise, because all the noise is just coming out of the side. It doesn't really bother the user. And while there is room for 140mm and Inwind didn't really bother putting the holes or the slots there, you can drill those yourself, and it actually gives you a nice feeling of satisfaction that you actually took a brand new case, drilled some holes in it. Anyway guys, if you like this video, please press that like button or the subscribe button. It really helps me out a lot. And if you want to follow the channel even more, there are links to Facebook, Twitter, Patreon and paypal.me to support the channel or follow me even more, whatever you want to do. Also, let me know in the comment area what you think about cases like this, or what case you would buy, or if you have any questions. All of that goes below. For now though, thank you very much for watching. I'll see you guys next week.